Bonjour et bienvenue à Cosser que t'en penses.
Un podcast acadien avec Frank.
Puis Lee. Puis guess what?
C'est-tu bien tout en Chiac?
Je pense que oui.
Right on. Je crois qu'on record right now.
Record right now.
Ouais.
Ben, first of all, on va dire à tout le monde bonne fête de l'Acadie. Because c'est 15 août right now.
Yeah.
C'était important pour nous autres de faire un recording sur la fête des Acadiens.
Yep.
Même si que vous allez juste le voir la semaine qui vient.
Puis je crois qu'il faudrait qu'on... Ça serait comme un kidnapping. Il faudrait qu'on montrait comme un newspaper avec la date, tout ce qu'on
Ouais.
fait. Trust in you, on est samedi le 15.
15 août.
On vous mêlerait pas comme il faut.
Non.
Il y a chacun d'autre de nous autres.
Il y a chacun de nous autres. La belle personne devant moi right now, c'est Guy Breau.
Oh.
Puis avant qu'on présente Guy, je veux juste vous donner pas un background, mais je veux juste dire que être acadien, ça ne dérange pas qu'est-ce que ton nom, ça ne dérange pas la couleur de ta peau, ça ne dérange pas qu'est-ce que tu ressembles, parce que être acadien, c'est qu'est-ce que dans toi.
Mm-hmm.
So, on a Guy, c'était nous autres aujourd'hui, puis on va attendre son cheminement. C'est un anglophone. Il parle quand même français. Il a grandi à Montréal. Puis, on ne va pas aller trop dans les détails parce que lui va nous en parler. Vous allez attendre du français que vous n'attendez pas avant. Vous allez attendre de l'anglais. Vous allez attendre du Chiac.
Il y a peut-être même du train qu'on ne savait même pas ce que c'est. Ça va être des Chiac nous ici.
So, Guy, bro, merci beaucoup d'avoir accepté de venir sur Cosser que t'en penses. On est vraiment excités de t'avoir.
Merci de m'avoir.
There you go. Hein, le bon français.
Hey, as-tu vu ça?
Il y a beaucoup de monde qui te connaît comme le père de Sophie,
Ouais.
le père de ma girlfriend Sophie. Pour le monde qui ne te connaît pas, peux-tu nous dire qui ce que tu es, puis qu'est-ce que l'Acadie veut dire pour toi?
Merci Lee et Frank. So yeah, I'll start off in English and we'll see why.
Mm-hmm.
Un Acadien très très fier, but I was born in Montreal as my siblings were. My parents are Acadians. Cocan, Buktush.
Shut up.
The heart of Acadia. Shut up. Cocan, Buktush. Moved to Montreal. They moved to Montreal. We were born and raised in Montreal. We're Montreal kids, and we went to English school. My dad insisted. He really believed that the French schools were not as good, which they weren't, I believe at that time. And he didn't want us to have what he thought were the handicaps that he went through when he was, through the war, and, the poor little French kid from Cocan that didn't speak English or learned to speak English during the war and had to get along and all that stuff. He didn't want us to have what he thought were the so-called handicaps, typical Acadien in that sense. And so we went to English school. And the little French that we had learned on the street, when you're 3 in those days
On the street
in Montreal. On the street. 3. Here's what it sounds like on a Saturday afternoon. It's like, go outside and play. You're 3 years old now. What the heck are you hanging in the house for? Okay, Mom. So you go out and you just, what do you do? I'm on the street here. We lived in Verdun. It was highly populated. I only spoke French at 3. It wasn't my vocabulary, like 40 words. And so, of course, you can learn a new language pretty easily. Well, the friends that I happened to make on that street happened to be English. Came back home, and my brother as well. And we're speaking English before you know it. And my parents, who were bilingual, I'll just speak English so we could be understood with the kids. So we lost our French. Mm-hmm. So I had to learn it all back again. And then by the time I was a teenager, think about it. Guy Breau, a proud French Canadian, living in a city that's French and English. But because I hang out with les Anglais, and I'm hearing all of this stuff that's just not true, what they're saying about that side. Of course, the other side are saying it about that. So I'm kind of caught in the middle, and I realize, well, they're both right and they're both wrong. And but it gave me kind of that position. But still, at about 16, I thought, this is ridiculous. I got to speak French. And I understood it, like they all say. But also because I would come out here to New Brunswick every other summer, going home, as my mom said. And we do all those things, right? We'd the live lobster in the cabin, and we're all standing on chairs, and Dad says, I got this, and we cook them up, and blueberries and digging clams, and ma tante Georgine making pancakes in the old house in Bouctouche.
The typical Acadian.
That was the life.
C'est ça que vous faisiez.
So you're a kid playing in the dirt, and you're driving in Jerry's old car, and he lets you drive because you're 8, you know, and you drive down to the shore. So that was the Acadie that I learned. This is back in the 50s when Acadians weren't saying, "Hey, I'm Acadian and I'm proud and free." You know, they weren't saying that then.
Il y avait encore le struggle là, de français, anglais dans les communautés.
Yeah, you know, you're quiet, you get along, you don't make a fuss, right? The Acadian thing. Of course, that's all changed. Thank God. So anyways, we're all proud and we're loud and it's beautiful. And so I felt that Acadian thing early on, and I made a pledge. I will live here. This is my home. And just worked out. I was able to apply for a job transfer in Montreal, and I got transferred to Moncton, and lived, you know, here in the East Coast most of my life. So Sophie was born here, Georges Dumont, petite Acadienne. Julie born in Halifax, you know, petite Acadienne. And they also were raised English speaking because I made the same mistake my parents made, but they also had to learn it back. So I learned it back, they learned it back. And there's the short story on me being Acadian.
Okay, so je vais en anglais ça. So ta vie à Toronto, c'est là que tu as fini ta carrière à Toronto.
Wow.
Et ensuite, tu as décidé de retirer et maintenant tu vis à Wolfville, qui est juste à côté de Grand Pré.
Ouais, c'est ça qui est arrivé. C'était mon travail qui m'a fait transférer à Sudbury actuellement.
Okay.
J'étais à Sudbury pour un an et demi. J'ai rencontré Sandy, mon partenaire. Shout out, Sandy. À Toronto. Puis j'ai arrangé pour un transfert, un company transfer to Toronto. Puis ça, c'était en 2009. Puis we were vacationing. We'd come out here every summer. Say, a week in New Brunswick, a week in Nova Scotia. She's got history and family in Nova Scotia. Me, of course, here. And we were just in a house that we were renting. And she said to me, "This is 2012, so 8 years ago. Think we should retire here, like when the time comes to retire," which we knew was a few years down the road. Is here like Nova Scotia? Yeah, well, yeah, but you know, where in Nova Scotia? Because not all Nova Scotia is equal to all Nova Scotia. For people come from the big city that, you know, have certain dreams or things that they consider important, want to do, not every little town just says, "Yeah, come on in, we love you." So we were able to work a process to wheedle it down to really the only place we wanted to live was in Annapolis Valley, especially the Wolfville end, as opposed to, say, the far other end is Annapolis Royal, which we love too. But so we chose Wolfville. Won't get into all the details, but just good coincidences that brought us back, seeing the place, driving through. Well, I'll just share this part. When we drove through in 2014 to visit friends in Kingston, Nova Scotia, I said, "Okay, this is perfect. We don't have to be there till supper time." I think we left Chiac that morning. And so we went straight to Grand Pré. And for the first time, I did the heritage site and the museum. I came out of there, I was crying. I mean, don't get me started.
Which is a normal response.
Oh,
or,
right.
A response that a lot of people have.
Right.
I asked the young lady tour guide, because I was asking her a question. I was getting choked up, and she's the one who said, "Don't feel bad about it," to your point. Half the people, anyway. Shout out to Grand Pré Heritage Site. Go.
Il y a la moitié du monde qui braille à cause de leurs ancêtres pis ça. Puis l'autre, c'est qu'ils apprennent là que l'évangile n'est pas vrai.
C'est
vraiment ça que c'est.
C'est exactement ça. C'est les deux. Hein?
Ça, c'était une histoire de Goodfellow, Longfellow.
Longfellow.
He's Longfellow.
Longfellow.
Hey, when you write a 77-page poem, you're called Longfellow. En tout cas, so
c'est peut-être un porn star still, Longfellow. Anyways.
So we all in that day, we visited Grand Pré. We left there. We went to Wolfville. We had, because we had to go to Tim Hortons. Shout out. We had to go to, we went to the liquor store. No, shout out. And anyways, and off to the party. And the next day we had to leave to be somewhere else. We drove back again. through Wolfville just because it's beautiful and because we love that town. And once again through Grand Pré, and by the time we got to Grand Pré, I looked at her, she looked at me and said, this is it. Because we had never decided up to that point where. We thought maybe Antigonish, maybe the South Shore, maybe the Valley. That did it. The rest is history. We made it happen the very next year, moved there in 2015. We live just on the west side of what is Wolfville, so that's it's called Greenwich. And it's exactly 8 kilometers. Well, 7.5 kilometers to the Statue of Angeline from my house, nice. Which I ride my bike out there. That's my Zen place. So, as I like to say, Wolfville is a suburb of Grand Pré.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Nice. So, j'ai vu que cette année et tout, tu dis la statue d'Évangéline, c'est le. J'essaie de me rappeler qu'est-ce que la date. Je crois que c'est le 100e anniversaire de la date.
100e, oui, c'est vrai.
Que la statue d'Évangéline a été faite.
Ouais. So, elle a été érectée.
Elle a été érectée, ouais. Demain. So, après que tu as mouvé à Wolfville, puis tu as commencé à faire la research, tu as descendance acadienne, puis tu nous expliquais à Tibran ça. Je crois que j'ai tellement joué à Tibran dans ça, pas trop, mais juste à Tibran.
I think you had a little role.
Ouais.
Yeah, Frank helped me big time. Helped through Sophie, my daughter, and Lee, get me connected to the pieces that were missing that I was trying to piece together about my family tree. So the long story short is now I know all 12, and I think it's 12 great-grandfathers all the way back to Vincent Breau. Actually, his father was René Breau, who was definitely born in France and had come over. We just don't know if Vincent was born in France, came over as a child, or was born in Nova Scotia. They lived just near Port Royal in what is now Granville Ferry. That house location, the Breau residence, is right there by Pré-Ronde, just on the northwest kind of side. And Belle-Île is just on the other side of Pré-Ronde, on the north side of the river. So I've discovered now through all these connections I'm making, combination of what I've learned through ancestry, but also the cool people that I'm meeting. There are some Acadians, not a lot, but some Acadians in the Wolfville area. It's kind of poignant to think that there's very few of us there, but I'll tell you what, we know each other, and we've got the same common energy to do, just to embrace it every day and to bring awareness to it. We're all flying our flags today.
So vous avez comme de partie de AA, so c'est comme Acadians Anonymous.
Acadians Anonymous.
Acadians no longer anonymous.
Exactement.
Vous n'avez plus besoin de vous cacher.
No.
So yeah, that's that whole Acadian connection into where we live. Yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah, but c'est nice et tout que je sais pas exactement c'est quoi la toponymie de Wolfville, comme juste que le Wolfville a pris son nom, mais ça tellement faire avec c'était General Wolf ou Colonel Wolf, ou il y avait peut-être quelque part de même. Ça c'est cool de voir
probablement oui.
Qu'il y a encore des Acadiens qui sont là despite que c'est nommé de même.
Yeah, that's very much the case. It's even we go back to talking about the heritage site. Well, that was the brainchild of Frederick Herbin's jewelers. He was this unbelievable Renaissance man, but his mom was Acadian and he claims that she was the first Acadian to return to Grand Pré, in effect.
Okay.
And this is in the late 1800s, so that's where he had come up with the idea that land had to be preserved. It had to be set aside and preserved for the Acadians because it's such an important place. And then with the railway, that whole story is pretty cool. But in a nutshell, the Dominion Atlantic Railway, DAR, was running from I think it was Annapolis Royal to Halifax, and it would go right past, like Wolfville, go right past Grand Pré on its way to Windsor. And Herbin said, "Hey, make you guys a deal. All these Americans and Quebecers and others all want to come to the land of Grand Pré. You know, I'm putting up the statue, the Evangeline statue. We need a train stop here at Grand Pré." So they agreed, and that's what really flourished the Grand Pré site.
Cool. Il y a beaucoup, nous autres, moi je travaille au centre d'études acadiennes à l'université de Moncton, Puis il y a plein de postcards qu'on a exactement qui montrent le Dominion Railway.
Yeah.
Puis ils ont pris plein de photos de ce qu'était le site. Puis il y a même des photos et tout comment ça s'appelle ça? Les évangélines de la Louisiane.
Mhm.
Ils venaient en train. Je ne sais pas exactement de où qui venaient, là, mais ils passaient à Grand Prix en train. Ça, c'était pas mal sharp de voir ça et tout. Là.
Yeah, it's very. And now I ride my bike on that same trail. So that same Dominion Railway trail was shut down in the 80s.
Okay.
And now it's you know, it's a walking cycling trail. So it's beautiful. That's my Zen place. That's the other thing about Grand Prix. Just those days I can get on my bike and just ride the trail. Like it's 7.5 kilometers to the statue. And I've got my favorite spot, my favorite tree. Anyways, and my dogs love it. So what else?
Ben oui, puis tu as une trip de planer next week pour visiter la fondation de la maison à ton grand-père. So, qu'est-ce qui va avec toi? Puis tu as comme une histoire qui va avec ça. Tu as quelqu'un qui est pas mal spécial qui va aller avec toi là-bas.
It's very special. The crazy, wonderful things that happen. Again, as I'm piecing together all the history that I can about my great-grandfathers, I know a fair bit about some of them and nothing about others. And when I say grandfathers, I also mean their wives as well, for what information is there. The most important one that I found was I was on one of the Acadien Facebook sites making a comment about something when a man named Charlie Thibodeau from Digby sees my comment and sees my name is Breau. So he writes to me, introduces himself, Charlie Thibodeau. And he's kind of a historian, Acadian historian. I say kind of because not officially, but this guy knows more stuff than you can imagine. He said, hey, I have met the current owner of the property where the old Vincent Breau house property was near Port Royal. And I had been aware that Vincent Breau's house was in a certain spot. And now I'm learning that this guy, Charlie, knows the owner of that property. His name is Wayne McDonald, and he is Acadian friendly. So it's like, bring him on, especially if they're a Breau.
And Vincent Breau is who to you?
Oh, thanks for asking. Vincent Breau is the earliest great-grandfather that we know of. So he arrived here with his wife, Maddie Borg, whose gravesite I will be visiting in about 2 weeks. They had, I never remember the numbers, like 10 seemed to be the average number of kids. 10 kids or so.
The winters were cold.
You got to cuddle.
Yeah.
And you know what the priest says.
Oh, yeah.
So therefore 10 kids that survived anyways. And so of course, one of them would be my next grandfather, etc. So Jean, so very many of the Breaux, and if not all, stream from that couple, Vincent Breau, Maddie Borg.
So most likely, ils ont été nés dans cette maison-là.
Yeah. I believe that, you know, he was either born there, or again, he may have traveled over from France. We're not sure. His father's name was René Breau, and from La Rochelle in France, and then came over. We just don't know if Vincent, or I don't know, maybe someone knows. If you know, let me know. So Vincent was either born in France or along the way or here. Maddie Borg, the Borgs lived in that area, etc. So Charlie and I become immediate friends because of this. Turns out he knows our dear friend Susan Surratt-Draper. I'm going to call it Susan. Susan's amazing.
Ah oui, elle m'envoie souvent des emails. J'ai souvent parlé avec elle. Là.
She's wonderful. And she's my neighbor. She lives in Port Williams. Used to be Boudreaux's Bank. And I live in Greenwich. And so we're just right across the river from each other. And it feels very special. Again, one of those Acadians that's back home. And so anyways, she's going to be coming out. In fact, she spoke at the Breau reunion last year.
Au Congrès Mondial.
At Congrès Mondial, which was a year ago yesterday.
Acadien.
Acadien. Imagine that. So
Your
the
native
Breau
land?
reunion in where my family wound up. How they got to Cocan is the story for maybe a little later. But so this is what's very special, is that we can now go visit the actual land and the property where Vincent Breau lived, there are still parts of the foundation and some other artifacts that have been found and protected.
Wow.
And this owner, so shout out to Wayne McDonald, to let us go. So we made a plan. August 28th, we're going to be, I'm going to be going out and meeting Charlie for the first time. We've been talking for 6 months, but because of the pandemic, of course, we couldn't meet until now.
C'est kind of comme un Tinder pour les Acadiens, d'une way.
Yeah, comme, what's Tinder?
Oh, a Tinder.
Tinder, yeah. Because you were talking online.
That's swipe right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with it. Yeah, I swipe right. So I got to tell you about Charlie, though, because what makes this connection even more special is that he was driving by this white building in Belle-Île, and it's a hall. It's the Belle-Île, La Salle Belle-Île. And he was curious. He didn't know what this was about. He did a bit of homework and found out the owner, the building was bought by an Acadian, Deborah Savoie, who now lives in Italy and has been living in Italy for a number of years. She had this dream to take over this old Acadian, well, it wasn't built, prior to the deportation, but it's built on the land of Belle-Île. So it's got an Acadian heritage, I guess, is the spin. Mm-hmm. And that's her dream, is to turn this into almost like an Acadian
hall or some sort,
yeah. And it is a hall.
Community
like
center.
A community center, live museum kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Wonderful dream. But it fell apart when she had to go to Italy and she had no one to look after it. Enter Charlie. Well, he's just that guy. He's just that guy that, he's got a screwdriver here and he's got a hammer and he can fix it. And so he takes over the hall, he and his wife, Jennifer. And they've been doing these amazing things. They've got a piano in there now. They've got, he painted all the outside. All the flags are up. It's beautiful inside.
Running water, the heat.
It's got running water.
Toilet paper.
Anyway, so, and again, he's the one that's got that Breau connection. So we're going out, we're going to see the hall. We're going to just kind of inaugurate it. And Susan's going to come out and some other Acadian friends are going to come out as well. And we're going to make kind of an unofficial grand opening of La Salle Belle-Île, which is just down the road from
that
where Vincent lived.
But he's in Bouteille d'Alpine.
So open invitation.
OK, so tu m'as conté une histoire hier about une autre personne qui va s'être avec vous autres. Mm. Puis ça va juste aider avec ce que j'ai dit au début du podcast about ça borre pas où tu restes, ça borre pas quel langage tu parles, quelle couleur que tu es. Avoir l'Acadie dans toi, c'est avoir de l'eau salée dans le sang. So, toi, tu as rencontré quelqu'un qui va aller avec vous autres, ben, conte l'histoire de comment est-ce que tu as rencontré puis qu'est-ce que ça passe là.
I got to start off by saying this. Here I'm in my late 60s. And I'm lucky because I still I meet a lot of people because I'm a musician. And also being a musician, you connect very quickly, or you can connect very quickly with certain people. So we're quite blessed that way with Sandy and I. And we've become well known in the area where we live now because we've been hosting open mics and open jams at a very popular local restaurant. And we've gotten to play with the who's who of the whole valley. And we're known as those people. So here's how lucky a guy can get. So we were running an open mic. It was a Monday open mic at the Noodle Guy. Noodle Guy.
Shout out.
Port Williams. He's the guy. That's the pass that go. So Monday, 4 to 7, we're doing our open mic. And Sandy is very good at spotting people in the restaurant that just might be a singer or a musician. She wants to kind of smoke them out. And she's got a pretty good track record. So she sees this one man eating, I'll describe him, early 50s, big man, big, strong, bald, goatee, and he's got almost a mischievous look. The ruddy cheek kind of,
he looks pissed off.
Not pissed off. He's just got this like,
I really like this pasta.
Yeah. So Sandy goes over, by the way, if you happen to be a singer and you come on up and do us a song. He said, well, I sing. She said, yeah, you might want to come up after you're done your meal. He said, well, I'm an opera singer. Mm-hmm. An opera singer, says Sandy. He says, yeah. He said, okay, well, I think you might want to meet Guy. So she comes over and says, Guy, that guy right there, his name is Richard. He's an opera singer. You want to talk to him? So I go over. I'm going to meet an opera singer.
Mhm.
It's a very cool opportunity, right? So I sit down right beside him like this, and I say, Richard, Guy, Acadien, yeah, Breau, comment, Richard, you're Richard comment? Just Richard, some guy. He says, yeah, I'm Acadien. I said, well, that's cool. What brings you here? Is I live in Washington State.
Yep.
I've spent the last 20 years or so in Berlin singing. I'm coming home. I've never lived in Acadie. I'm an Acadian. I'm coming home. We're moving here. We're going to sell our property in Washington. We're going to get our horses here. We're going to buy a big farm and horses. We're going to build a building that's going to have live music in it.
Oh, well.
And we're going to be home in Acadie. And I'm like, nice to meet you, cousin. Do you want to get up and sing? So he gets up, and that part I won't get into, but he sings, Oh, Danny Boy. Brought the whole place to almost to its knees. It was like one of those experiences like you just can't imagine in a small
Venue.
rustic room like that. This guy sings national anthems. Like he's a town crier. He does that too. He's like the guy, hear ye, hear ye. He's that guy. And he's just unbelievable. And he loves everything Acadian. And he is so passionate that, so he and I obviously connected. He's going to be there. Why? Because he's in Nova Scotia right now in quarantine. And when he comes out of quarantine, he's looking to buy property. Hopefully he's going to get what he wants. He's going to be here as soon as he can be. But in the meantime, we're all going to visit Charlie on the 28th, and including Richard. And he's going to get to maybe sing something
On the site.
wow. In this hall, and he's going to bring us to tears. It's going to be a beautiful thing.
Je te bec, ça sera pas du caillouche.
La reine du bingo.
Ça fait drôle, hein? La reine du bingo, chanté par un gars qui fait de la brosse.
He's the bingo guy.
Ouais, c'est lui qui colle le bingo. Ouais.
Yeah. Ben, comme vous voyez, ça ne barre pas. Ce que vous venez de, c'est quoi qui est dans vous autres. So.
Yeah.
C'est ça que ça veut dire, Acadien, de mon opinion. So, on vote à la game? Actually, non, on a un email.
Ouais, j'ai voté un email avant.
Ouais. Qu'est-ce que l'email vient de?
Ben, je sais pas, je trouve ça kind of weird qu'on ait un email, puis comme on savait même pas que Guy Breau laissait, tu sais.
I guess qu'il y a du monde qui le track. He's just that famous.
Je sais.
Hein?
Je sais. Ben, là, on va regarder. Ça vient, c'est un email de Pascal Haché.
Ah ben, on connaît tout Pascal.
Ben oui, ben oui.
Je connais Pascal.
Il y a déjà une couple de fois sur le podcast. Là. So, lui voulait savoir, c'est une question importante qu'il met. Aimerais-tu venir souper chez nous pour la fête des Acadiens?
Mais oui. Est-ce qu'il y a de poutine?
Il y a most likely des poutines.
Oui.
OK, serait là.
So, Pascal, réchauffe 3 poutines pour Guy Breau.
Yeah, we'll just, you know what? We'll walk. We'll just walk on down.
Non, c'est pas loin.
Des poutines puis des pitounes.
All right. À cette heure, c'est le temps pour la game. Le nom de la game s'appelle Tiens ma bière, puis la réponse, c'est cette.
OK.
So, tu as ta bière là, on a notre bubbly, on va faire un petit cheers.
Bubbly.
Joyeuse fête de l'Acadie.
Joyeuse Acadie.
Cheers. So, il y aura 5 questions. Puis, since qu'on a un podcast acadien, puis c'est la fête de l'Acadie, ça va être tout basé sur l'Acadie.
Oh,
So,
good choice.
es-tu pareil, Guy Breau? Oui. Première question, c'est Cosser, qui est ton favorite mets acadien?
Ça, c'est facile. C'est poutine râpée. Le vrai poutine.
La vraie poutine.
Hey, des Québécois, là, la vraie poutine, c'est la poutine râpée que ma mère a faite quand j'étais jeune. Avec beaucoup de la cassonade. Tu appelles ça la cassonade?
Le brown sugar.
The brown sugar.
Oui, oui.
À Québec, c'est la
pas,
cassonade.
Si tu chantes brown sugar, c'est Rolling Stones. Brown sugar.
Oui, oui.
Yeah, don't get me started. Yeah, so that's my favorite mets acadien.
Avec du sucre brun.
Sucre brun. Après ça, il y a fricot, il y a pâte de serre, etc. But no.
Il va tout avoir ça bientôt, apparemment.
Pas mal bientôt.
Pas mal bientôt.
Bientôt.
Question numéro 2. François.
Qui est ton favorite artiste acadien?
Oui. Zachary. I've met him twice.
Oh, nice.
right, personally.
Le petit garçon, Pascal?
Zachary et Richard.
Met him twice too.
Richard, ouais, ok. Oui,
Zachary
oui.
et Richard.
Okay.
Acadie Richard. So I met him the first time, I think it was would have been about 20 years ago, at the Irving in Miramichi, Chatham. And I was on my way. I was driving Bathurst back to Moncton. I just went in and I was getting a coffee. Oh, bananas. I got a good price. I got a bunch of bananas and a coffee, and I'm waiting in line to pay. And in walks, I'm like, that's Acadie Richard. I just walked in here. And it was like just before La Fête des Acadiens.
Okay.
So he was, was always, not always, but often here. Remember, I'm cook Chiac, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I walked straight over, spoke to him in my best Chiac, like your Sunday Chiac.
Yeah.
I was using my Sunday Chiac because it was Acadie Richard. But I love his accent. He's got that beautiful Louisiana accent.
Yeah.
So, on va aller te voir. Oui, je serai là, même Rum Cook. Well, samedi. Blah. Anyway, that was all nice. And the other time was when he played here in Chiac.
Yep.
And at the open air thing, I was here for that, and I had like the VIP ticket, which means I get to go into the mobile home and get to meet him
Backstage.
the backstage of the mobile home. So I thought, this is weird. So I walk in and everyone's just all lined up, like good little boys and girls along the wall and waiting. And here comes Acadie. And excuse me, so he comes in and bonjour tout le monde. But he's the coolest guy. He went around to everybody and he took his time. And he was just saying, who are you? What's your name? And he needs to know your name, like your family name, right? So, of course, it's great. So when he got to me, I just said, Breau. And he said, oh, whatever. And then I said, veux-tu échanger chapeau? Because he had this coolest hat. It's like the real cool hat.
A fedora, much.
Yeah, it had like a ball cap on.
Yeah.
I said, veux-tu échanger? And he looked at me and says, sorry. And anyways, we've been great friends ever since.
Yeah.
Oui. Non, j'ai déjà rencontré Richard aussi, moi, 2-3 fois. Il vient souvent au centre d'études acadiennes parler avec Stephen White, qui est notre généalogiste.
Yeah, the historian.
So, il vient souvent le voir, puis il y avait une de nos secrétaires depuis nous autres right now, mais une grande histoire courte, il avait rentré, puis elle était une huge fan de Acadie Richard. So, elle était à son bureau, puis elle n'avait pas vu qu'il était arrivé. So, moi, j'ai été la chercher, mais j'ai dit, j'ai besoin de toi une minute dans mon bureau, puis tu venir.
Tu voulais la surpriser.
La surpriser. Puis là, elle a vu, puis là, elle a mis rouge, elle ne pouvait pas parler, elle ne savait plus quoi dire. Puis après ça, elle m'a disputé parce que je n'avais pas dit, elle n'avait pas eu de chance de se mettre du lipstick.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice surprise. No, that's very cool. So he's my number one guy. I wrote 2 other names there. Antonin Maya.
Oh, pour sûr.
Because Antonin Maya, I can say, she's just a treasure. And Viola Léger. And we got to see Viola Léger. She did La Sagouine in English in Montreal about 10 years ago. So Sandy and I drove down from Toronto.
Just pour ça? Just for that?
To see that?
Yeah.
Well, we went down for the weekend, right? Because my siblings are there, brother, 2 sisters. So we said, let's make this an Acadian weekend. And it was in the summer, I don't know. And so we, Jeannie, my sister, Jeanette, she did the pâte de serre, someone else did the fricot. And so we had an Acadian dinner at home at my brother's. And then we all headed down. We had tickets and we're with some other folks. So we watched La Sagouine in English, but still, she does it wonderfully in English. Anyways, my brother-in-law, Guy Campo,
shut up.
said, hey, he's been in the record music business all his life, and he's been, works the back rooms, and so he can make the connections. So he talks to a guy that talks to a guy. Next thing you know, it's like, okay, yeah, we get to meet Viola Léger.
Nice.
After the show. This was after the show. So, needed to wait 10 minutes. So we go back right into her dressing room. She invites us in, and she's this tall. Right? I mean, this tall. If I'm standing, this tall, sweet as anything. And so we went right into her room and we chatted with her and we told her the whole story of who we are and the fact that we had made this into an Acadian weekend. So that meant a lot to her because she's in Montreal.
That probably means so.
Yeah. So anyway, that's so those are my top 3 right there.
C'est le bon top 3. C'est les 3 historiens definitely sur un Mount Rushmore de l'Acadie.
Mount Rushmore de l'Acadie.
Ah oui.
Swipe right.
Ah oui.
C'est mon turn?
Bah, je croirais, oui.
So Guy, you skate ta favorite spot en Acadie?
Well, yeah, I kind of gave that away. Although I have a few, but if I have to name a few.
Okay.
My favorite spot is Grand Prix because it's just I never understood what meditation was until I just spent some time just basically sitting there. I do yoga, and maybe that helps, but just to sit on that land, feet right on the ground. Is where I get off the bike, I get right down onto the ground. And then there's this beautiful pine tree that I just love. And if it's really hot, I'll get into the shade of that pine tree. And from there, I could see the statue. I could see the church. The church means a lot to me, just because, not because from a religious standpoint, but just because of what it represents. That was the building or the theoretical building that all the men and boys were brought into. So that's my number one spot. If I had to pick a number two, because you didn't ask me that, but can I have
You can have a number two.
a number two?
But if you need a real number two, the bathroom's right there.
Yeah, don't do number 2 in here.
We'll go with the other number two, which is my second choice, which is the little beach in Bouctouche. So when you're, say you're in Bouctouche going towards Chiac,
Yep.
on the old 34, you go down a couple of kilometers and you go over the little Bouctouche River. There's a bridge. And I think it only had one of the big round
Metal
arches, one or two. An old rickety bridge. Well, that's the Little Bouctouche River. And right on the other side, on the south side, right there is where Highway 535 goes all the way around to Cocan. We're right on that corner. There's a little beach. And across the street was the Wagon Wheel restaurant where I would buy chocolate bars as kids.
Oh,
so
nice.
I taught myself to swim there.
Oh,
Yeah, I was like, summer of 50s. I was 6, summer of 57.
so we got to do a summer of 69. But
Yeah,
know.
I was old by then.
Non, mais c'est cool que tu commandes 2 spots. Est-ce que une qui est Grand Prix que le monde a déjà dit avant, mais 2,
Yeah.
la beach, juste le bord de Little Bouctouche River, c'est une belle.
Just that little corner of the beach, yeah.
Puis là, la question numéro 4. Qu'est-ce qui est le best advice que tu pourrais donner à quelqu'un en Chiac?
En Chiac.
oh shit.
Yeah.
I just, the only thing that kept coming back is worry pas, arrête de worrier.
There you go.
That's pretty good advice.
Worry pas.
Oui.
Prends-toi un ice cream.
Prends un ice cream, oui.
Tout est meilleur avec un ice cream.
Oui. Never mind de prendre des pilules pour l'anxiété. Juste prendre un ice cream, tout est mieux.
Puis si vous voulez la meilleure ice cream à Chiac, allez à Ice Cream Delight Chiac. Shout out.
Shout out.
Shout out.
So, la dernière question, Lee, qu'est-ce que ça serait?
So Guy, aimerais-tu mieux de vivre sans manger acadien ou sans musique acadienne?
Je peux pas vivre sans la cuisine acadienne. I love music, obviously. But I thought about this. The music is in me anyway. It's, if I never heard it again, and when I say Acadie music, I think Cajun as well.
Mhm.
It's Acadie. I think of Buckwheat Zydeco and that whole crowd. I mean, I love that music. In fact, I play a little bit of it. But the food to me is the culture. It's the connection to the women, the Acadian women. I'm thinking of Madame Georgine, who would make these pancakes in her old kitchen with the pumped water. And that's where we would stay. My mom was ashamed to take us back to Bouctouche. She had that angst that a lot of Acadians were just poor Acadians. I mean, think of my mom, who went to school with Anton and Maya.
Mm.
So they're connected. She's a Girois from Bouctouche. So, I mean, they're all connected. But anyways, yeah, that's my story on that.
So le manger t'emmène back. Quand tu prends une bite,
it brings it all back. And also because when we were kids, so mom would make the putinarapi, so we would help. But then clam digging and blueberry picking and getting the blueberry pie made by, with the blueberries that I picked. The quahogs.
Des coques.
Des
Des coques.
Des moules. I always confuse
gros
them.
coqs.
What they meant.
Small or big? No.
Some big cooks.
Cooks. Des cooks.
Des coccinelles.
You had to say it carefully.
Yeah.
Oui, but on that note, avant que ça dégénère ici, là, on veut pas trop. On s'entend parler de small puis big cook. Alright, merci beaucoup, Guy, d'avoir venu partager ton histoire. Puis c'est chouette d'avoir une autre perspective de quelqu'un qui a grandi dans un milieu anglophone, mais qui a quand même des racines acadiennes. Ça, c'est nice de toi de descendre all the way de Wolfville juste pour faire l'interview ici.
That's the story of my life, right there.
Non, but, merci beaucoup.
Ouais, puis
Thanks for having me.
n'oubliez pas qu'on a supporté local. Si vous ne l'avez pas fait encore, à peu près rate ici, je pense, tu peux subscriber sur notre YouTube page.
Ouais.
So, n'oubliez pas de faire ça. Puis,
si vous nous aimez, disez-nous.
puis si vous ne nous aimez pas, ben disez-nous pas.
So, moi pour Lee, c'est Frank.
Moi pour Frank, c'est Lee.
Puis merci beaucoup.
Bonne soirée. Bonne fête des Acadiens.
Faites des Acadiens.
Bonne fête des Acadiens.
Sponsor time!
Wow!
Wow! L'épisode d'aujourd'hui est sponsor par le movie Top Gun. Non, ça c'est pas vrai. J'ai mal dit ça. On va back ça. Sponsor time! L'épisode d'aujourd'hui est sponsor par Fighter Jet Studios, ta one-stop shop pour les t-shirts to go. Je sais que vous pensez, but non, Maverick ou Iceman vient pas avec les t-shirts. But si vous voulez des custom t-shirts pour votre business, votre band, votre sports team, ou juste pour vous autres, man, visitez Fighter Jet Studios right now. Comme right now. Qu'est-ce que vous espérez? Le plus important est les shirts de Cosser sont vendus exclusivement par Fighter Jet Studios. Puis guess what? Il n'y a pas juste des t-shirts, il y a aussi des sweatshirts. So, allez visiter Fighter Jet Studios right now. Comme right now. Puis supportez local, supportez-nous, allez acheter notre stuff, mais aussi n'oubliez pas d'acheter le stuff à tous les autres.